Hey guys, Ty Bryson here, and today we're going to talk about REITs and what they actually are, how they work, if it's worth it, and how you go out there and how you invest into it. And by the end of this video, I'll show you exactly what I use to buy my REITs, what REITs I actually invest into, and why, and also how much money I actually make. And by the way, a REIT is called a real estate investment trust. That is all that it is. Now, the first time I heard about it, I thought it was like the REITs, like the candy. I was like, what are you talking about candy here in this conversation, okay? And by the way, I figured out that this way was actually pretty good when it came to buying real estate, because basically, when I heard my grandfather told me, yeah, Tommy, we live in New York here, in the Bronx, in this small house, but yeah, it did cost me $500K if I actually want to sell it right now. And I'm like, what? And then my professor told me, yeah, Tommy, the first time I bought my first property, I literally had to break some piggy banks to go ahead and round up all that money to go ahead and just put down the down payments for the property. And I was like, wow, real estate is so expensive in New York, I might as well move, but even then, it's going to be expensive. So then, having heard about REITs allow me to invest into real estate with $5 and $10, I was like, yeah, I'd rather do that, not worry about being a landlord, fixing things up, or any of that stuff, and just worrying about getting my piece of the pie by getting me paid money every single month by just being an investor in a REITs. And to me, that sounds a lot more awesome. And that's why we're going to talk about this in this video right here. And by the way, I also do think that investing into physical real estate is actually pretty awesome. But the thing is that not every single person out there can actually go ahead and do that, qualify, and also afford it. So that's why we're going to talk about REITs today and how they actually work. And by the way, guys, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day on YouTube. So make sure to also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified, and also destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm. You guys know how that works, right? So just smash that like button. Now, let's get started here officially. Tommy, what is a REIT and how exactly does it work? Well, a REIT is basically just a real estate investment trust, like I mentioned before. But the idea is that basically a company that you actually invest money into pulls in all that money and then goes out there and basically buys real estate, grabs the profits from the rents, and then pays you guys out in dividends. And that's how everything basically works. You also have private ones and also public ones, but that I'm going to get into later in the video. Just give me a second to break down the basics. So basically, if you invest into a REITs, you can basically invest into hotels, you can't afford those by yourself, towers, you can't afford those by yourself, retail complexes, malls, those are things you can't afford by yourself. But by buying the REITs, you get to own a small share and also basically get pay some of that money. They actually get paid in rent, and that is pretty awesome. And by the way, guys, interesting fact that you probably don't know here, but I just found out, back in the 1960s, REITs was actually not allowed until Congress stepped in. But the answer was that back then, this entire thing right here was reserved only for the wealthy. But today, if you have $5 or $10, you can go ahead and easily invest into REITs whenever you want to. And don't worry, I'll tell you exactly what brokers I actually use to go ahead and invest also by the end of this video. Now, number two is basically the types of REITs and how they actually work. But I do want to mention one thing here, guys, okay? You'll probably see comments, so you will about to comment right now, but I just stopped you, saying, for example, Tommy, a great way to invest into real estate is with Fundrise or Landa or one of these apps out there that basically go ahead and allow you to invest into real estate without having to actually buy or be the landlord of any properties, and they do all the management and just take a small fee. And in reality, that's kind of true, but here's a problem with that. That's basically called liquidity issues, because basically when you invest into a small company and you invest, for example, $100K or $10K or $5K, the big problem is that basically if you want to take your money out at any moment, there might not be enough movement going on in that fund. And in reality, guess what might happen? You might not be able to take your money out and you might be stuck with that investment, although all you want to do is basically sell it. And that's why usually I'm not talking about any Landa, I'm not talking about Fundriser, I'm talking about ways you can actually invest into REITs, but also have liquidity to take your money out whenever you actually want to, because I know for a fact that's important to me and it's most likely going to be important to you. Now, let's talk about the types of REITs. There are three main types here, and type 1 is called equity REITs. And equity REITs is basically when the company grabs that money, goes out there and purchases real estate that produces income for it, and they basically collect it in rent usually, and they grab all that money from rent they actually made and they give it to you guys in dividends. That's what equity REITs actually are. But there's also mortgage REITs, and that's basically not buying real estate but actually giving out loans and financing deals to people that actually want money to buy real estate, and you basically get paid in the interest the company makes and they distribute it to you guys accordingly. That's called mortgage-based REITs. And then you also have, you probably guessed it, a hybrid way to actually do a combination of both and get paid both from rental income and also from mortgage interest income. There's several ways to actually do that, and basically guys, I will give you guys some example, but the main point when it comes to investing into REITs, make sure you pick the right ones, and on top of that, make sure you're not going to have liquidity issues by going with a small app or a small company. Usually you want to go on the stock market and find REITs there, because that way, if you want to sell at any moment, you can just go ahead and sell right then and there, because usually a lot of demand and usually also a lot of supply. So that's why I like buying my REITs in the stock market. So keep that in mind. Now, number 3, guys, okay, tell me, okay, I know what a REIT is, I know the types of REITs, but now I want to know how the heck do I go out there and actually buy a REITs, okay? How do I actually do it? Buying a real estate investment trust. I can't believe when I first heard it, I thought the guy said like REITs, like the candy. I don't know why I heard that, okay? I'm just like, I think I was hungry, okay? But the point is, the way you buy, you can actually buy, for example, ETFs that contain REITs. You can actually buy individual REITs, for example, index funds, or even, for example, mutual funds or actively held ones, okay? The idea is that there are a lot of ways to go out there and basically buy REITs if that's what you actually want to do in the market. Now, let's go over some of them right now. Say, for example, you want to buy an individual REITs, meaning one company that holds all the money, pulls it all together, and goes out there and buys real estate, or for example, goes out there and lends money, being for example, a mortgage-backed REITs. So for example, I'm going to show you guys one right here. And by the way, right now, the real estate market in the US is kind of like trash because everything's going on right now. But in reality, whenever you think about investing, remember to think about long term. It's not about short term. It's about the long term. 10 years from now, what's going to be happening? 20 years from now, what's going to be happening? Usually, real estate is still going to be a solid investment, okay? So here it is, guys, okay? Here is one example here, and this is actually called AGNC Investment Corp. Now, is this here an equity-based REIT, a hybrid one, or maybe a mortgage-backed one? Well, all you have to do is just scroll all the way down here to the company information, and it tells you exactly that what they specialize in is basically doing mortgages, okay? So basically, it's a mortgage-based REITs. And right here, if you scroll all the way up, you'll see that's basically trading for $14 right now, and in reality, they pay around a dividends around 10.39%. Now, before you go out there and say, Tommy, I just found one, okay, I'm gonna invest into this one right here. The answer is, whenever you invest into individual REITs like these, although they might pay you a lot of money, the big risk is that basically, what happens if it goes down to zero? Then what do you do then? Because you only have one, so basically you're carrying a lot more risk. And by the way, there are a ton more out there that focus on a lot more things. You also have, for example, the equity-based ones and also the mortgage-based ones that are actually being traded for right now in the market. But say, for example, you want it to be more conservative. And by the way, guys, this right here, although it does sound like pretty cool, in reality, you're actually not earning money when you actually invest. And on top of that, if you just go to the financials right here, they're actually losing a ton of money. So never just look at dividends and be like, okay, this is awesome. The answer is no. It's a lot more that goes into play when you're actually investing into something. It's not like dividends, okay? Usually, the dividends kind of like a little thing to dangle in front of you, like, hey, here's some bait. Come invest with us. You never know. So make sure you do all the research before you actually go ahead and invest. But in this case, let's talk about buying an ETF that's based around REITs. Now, this ETF right here is called the Vanguard Real Estate Index Fund ETF, and it basically tries to track the 2550 real estate US market, right? And right here is a whole paper on it also, and that we can read about it if you want to. But the idea is that it tracks small, large, and mid-cap US sectors of the real estate market in the US. That's the entire point. And by the way, guys, one thing that I learned is that basically whenever you don't know what somebody is talking about, or you find something on Google, you don't know what it's talking about, just go ahead and Google it and go ahead and find out, okay? I'm not like a magician. The whole thing is that basically I read a lot of books, and my whole goal is like, hey, I get information, I share with you, but I'm not a genius. It's basically just learning every single day, and it compounds and compounds, and that way you learn more and more. But back to this REITs right here, okay? This right here is an ETF. It's called VNQ. I invest into it also, and it pays around 3.80%. But by the way, it's also down around 14% this year because, again, the real estate market in the US is still pretty shaky. But guess what your boy did, okay? I went ahead and I bought more, because you want to buy things when they're basically at a discount. And by the way, I'm holding for a very long time. And by the way, this ETF basically contains a lot of different REITs. That way, if one falls, it doesn't matter. That way, you're good to go and you're not carrying that much risk. But on top of that, guys, you also have, for example, index funds that contain REITs, and you also have actively held mutual funds that also contain REITs. The whole goal is basically find the one that's right for you, but I don't recommend mostly ever investing into actively held mutual funds that contain REITs, because basically the whole thing is that they're going to charge you a ton of money in the management fees and all that stuff. So you might want to basically just go with index funds that are passively held, or ETFs that are also just tracking an index. That way you save a ton of money when it comes to fees. And by the way, one more fact that you probably didn't know here, REITs income is actually not qualified dividend income, so keep that in mind. If you don't know what that is, I'll link a video down below when it comes to taxes, when it comes to the stock market. But I'll link it down below. That way you find out exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to qualified dividend income and also ordinary dividend income. Basically, one of them gets taxed very heavily, and that's basically called the ones that are not qualified. In this case, REITs dividend income is not qualified, so you will be taxed as it was ordinary income on your entire taxes, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, the last thing I want to show you guys is this, okay? Tell me, okay, so far I've learned what a REITs is, the types of REITs, basically how to invest into them, ETFs, individual ones, mutual funds, and also index funds. By the way, Vanguard has a bunch of them also, but I want to show you guys exactly what I invest in personally. And by the way, this right here is one of my portfolios, and this was M1 Finance. And by the way, I'm right now negative around 4.23%, but I only started this around like 3-4 months ago, and that's why I'm negative. But overall, my whole portfolio with Acorns, Robinhood, also SoFi Money, I'm still up around 25 to 30%. But then again, this one I just started, and that's why right now is negative. And by the way, if you want to invest into this exact same portfolio right here it is, like all the investments, I'll put a link down below with M1 Finance. When you sign up, you get this portfolio right here, and also 20 bucks is actually pretty cool if you ask me. But the idea is that I invest into VNQ right now, and right now I'm down around 7.16%, but I do get paid around 3.8% when it comes to dividends. Actually pretty cool, right? But the answer is that right now, guys, the whole real estate market is down, but you have to think about long term. 10 years or 20 years from now, when you're investing, for example, into an ETF or an index fund, the idea is you're tracking the index. So in reality, usually the real estate market is appreciating and growing with time and also making you more money. So I'm saying here basically, don't just keep track of the what's going on now. What about the politics? What about what they're saying on CNN or maybe Yahoo Finance, or I heard this article, this YouTuber? The answer is, what I do on my channel is like a marathon. So don't quit the marathon before you start thinking about like, hey, but what if I trip? Okay, the answer is no. You're going for the long run. And in the long run, this investment is going to do great. And that's the entire point. And by the way, of my portfolio is only around an 8% chunk of it. So it's not really that much, but it does give me a good hefty amount of income. And by the way, also by the end of this year, this portfolio right here, that's around like $43,000. By the end of the year, it'll be like around $106,000, and that's gonna pay me around $3K every single year, and that's around $250 in cash just for having my money work for me. So that's the cool thing also about investing. But guys, that's about it when it comes to REITs, how they work, how I invest into them, how you can invest into them also, and what the tricks are. But please do me a favor, be careful listening to the apps and the people out there say, hey, I'm gonna give you 16% or 10% or 20%, because basically the whole goal is that, hey, you're giving me so much money, but what happens if I can't take my money out when I want to take it out? And that's a massive problem. Guys, comment down below and let me know, are you going to invest into REITs? Do you like them? What do you think? Or you just rather to go out there and buy your own property, be the landlord, and basically have all that headache for yourself? Okay, comment down below, let me know. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, like this video right here, guys. Well, like this video. On top, if you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified. And if you want to talk to me or text me, subscribe to my Patreon, link down below. Or for example, just send me a DM on Instagram at Tommy Bryson. And on top of that, if you want to watch a video on taxes when it comes to the stock market, watch the video right here, including just tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.